Okay, good evening everyone. My name is Ron and I'm an alcoholic. Love our sign, welcome home. You're home. A couple quick announcements. This group has commitment on Sunday nights in Quakertown, 7 p.m. at a treatment center. If you'd like to do that, there's no time requirements, just a message of hope and recovery. If you'd like to just come and listen, just come. It's open to every single one. There's Andrew there. Raise your hand, please. There's our chairman. See him after the meeting, and he will hook you up with that. Another one is at Valley Forge Medical Center, and that is on Tuesday nights. These recur every week. So if you'd like to get involved and carry this message, we always have ways to connect you to the front lines, and which we feel is the most important place. This group is all about service, and like we said before, like last year we gave away a couple hundred big books, and this year we just purchased 500 of them. We give them away at all these treatment centers to carry this message. So it's very effective. Your donations, your contributions, your support over the years have really propelled the message to carry to other alcoholics. Anyway, we got a great night, great lineup. We got the world's best chairperson tonight. Let's please welcome Brian. Have some fun with this.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, PA. The food and the fellowship for this group starts at 8 o'clock, and the speaker comes on at 8:30. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday, 7 p.m. to 7:30. Feel free to show up early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone that's new to this meeting or visiting from out of town that would like to introduce themselves on a first name basis? We can welcome you. Yes? Amy, welcome. Anybody else? Yeah.
Larry,
Larry, welcome. Yeah. Danny, welcome. Michelle, welcome.
Jeff from Doylestown. Hey,
Jeff, welcome. Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with a working knowledge of the 12 steps and that is willing to sponsor raise their hands? So you can look around the room. Again, I usually say if you're new or if you're struggling, grab one of those people after the meeting. There's always a meeting after the meeting. There'll be a bunch of us hanging out, so grab somebody after the meeting. Are there any announcements from the floor for the good of AA? Did you have something? No? Okay. Our sister group is a big book study group that meets every Thursday at 7:30 right up the road here at Salem UCC Church. The coffee's on at 6:15. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put their donations in that jar on the back table marked big book and CD donations. All CDs are available free of charge. This group has a YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, PA, where we post speakers from this group. We also post speakers from our Monday night meeting, which is 6 p.m. right in the room next door here. That's a step discussion group. That meeting is also followed by an Al-Anon group at 7:30. So if you'd like any more information on any of those meetings, you can again see me or any home group member after the meeting. And with that, I believe Nick's going to come up here. He's going to read our Just for Today prayer.
My name's Nick, I'm an alcoholic, and welcome home. The Just for Today prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And now with that, we have Jerrry to come up and read the AA preamble.
Hi, I'm Chairman Alcoholic, and welcome home. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We're self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I have asked Andrew to come up and read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrew and I'm an alcoholic. And these are the AA 12 Steps of Recovery. 1, we admitted we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
Okay, seventh tradition, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions, and make sure the basket makes its way around. There's no dues or fees for AA membership, but we do have expenses. Your contributions help us to provide many services, cover rent, big books, CDs, etc. We also have our CCSG swag on display, stage left tonight. If you'd like to purchase a hoodie or something after the meeting, you can see a home group member if you'd like to make a contribution that way. There's absolutely no smoking on church property. Just be considerate of that as you're coming and going from the church property. Pretty much goes for any churches these days. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now to introduce our speaker for tonight, coming to us from the Conscious Contact Group of Staten Island, New York. Please help me welcome Jerrry.
Welcome home. I love that. My name is Jerry. I'm an alcoholic. Can you hear me? In the back? Okay. It's nice to be here tonight, and I like to say I'm happy to be here fully clothed and in my right mind, because there was a time in my life when that was not possible, but today it is, and I'm impressed. I'm impressed by this room. I'm impressed by this group. I'm impressed by what Ron was talking to Ron before the meeting and writing down here with my friend Jeff. My home group is the Conscious Contact Group, and it's not this one. It's probably a group about the size of this on Staten Island. It's been my home group for many, many years, and I'm happy to be here. Somehow or other, there's a friend of mine on Staten Island. His name is Christian, and he called me out of the blue one day, and he says, "Listen, I've been talking to a guy named Ron from Doylestown, and he wants to know if you'd like to come down or whatever." And that was, I don't know, that was a month or so ago. I don't know when it was. And I didn't think it was going to come up this quick, you know what I mean? So, but I'm glad to be here. My sobriety date is the day before St. Patrick's Day. Look at my face. My last initial is R. You can kind of figure out a little bit more after that or whatever, just by looking at me and whatever. And I can, to this day, when I go anywhere, when I've been asked to speak even around Staten Island or the 5 boroughs or wherever, I always get the same thing from people at the end of the meeting. How the hell did a guy like you, with a name like you, and a past like you, and your family like you, how the hell could you get sober the day before St. Patrick's Day? You know what I mean? And for years, I didn't know what to say. But then I realized that I did not get myself sober March 16th. I was brought into a place to meet people like you that gave me the willingness to do what I didn't want to do one day at a time. We were talking about Dave and Buster's before outside or whatever with Ron, and I remember being in Philly many, many years ago. I was sober with my family, and that place was jumping, and I remember that like I'm standing up here today. And I don't know why that has nothing to do with my story really, but my first drink was a bottle of Thunderbird wine. I didn't share with anybody. I didn't choose to share with anybody. I had never drank before. I was 13. I was born in a household where alcoholism ran rampant. Like they say, it doesn't run through my family. It gallops. You know what I mean? I have a lot of cousins and a lot of relatives that were able to get some sobriety in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and lose their sobriety because they're not coming here and not doing what their sponsors asked them to do, and just whatever. This disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful, patient, progressive, and it wants me dead even though I've been here for a few 24 hours. My first drink was a bottle of Thunderbird wine, a pint of Thunderbird wine. I can remember that green bottle right now, cracking that metal cork on that thing and going to that high school dance where I had been Velcroed to the wall for about 3 or 4 weeks every Friday or Saturday night when we went to and I couldn't get off that wall to dance. Can anybody relate? Okay. And then we were, all 3 of us, none of us were working. How we got up enough money to this day to go have this older guy, 18 years old, go into Skinner's liquor store on Staten Island up the street from the train station. And we told him to get, what do you want, he asked us. The whole 3 of us had never drank before. I don't know, this is whatever you can get with this $3 or whatever the hell it was. He came out with 2 bottles of Thunderbird wine, and I grabbed 1 bottle I had never drank before, and I started to sip on that bottle, and I was bigger and more crazier even at that time, and I gave the other bottle to those other 2 guys, and they split that. And splitting that bottle right off the bat and watching them, how they behaved, who's puking in the bushes, who's wrestling in the men's room with the dance and whatever, and I'm not doing any of that at that time, right? At that time, you know? So my whole life changed that night. I didn't know I'd be in Doylestown in 2023 doing this. You know, it wasn't on my bucket list. It wasn't on my bucket list to go to AA. It wasn't on my bucket list to even believe that there's any program or any place that I could go that I would be able to somehow wipe away the past that I've been living for so long and have some kind of excitement to move on to the future. And so I went to high school. I had a friend of mine named Johnny. He lives in Las Vegas right now, and he's still alive somehow to this day, I don't know. And we started drinking together down in his basement. We drank all his father's Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. And his father wasn't too crazy about that. But I remember one night we were down in the basement playing pool, drinking his father's Pabst, and he took out one of those razor things, you know what I mean? And he said, "Give me your hand." And I gave my hand. He slipped my hand, and then he grabbed it with blood is coming down on the floor, and he said, "When we grow up, we're going to be alcoholics." Right? And I can't say whether he is or not, but you know. He drank like I did. He didn't get into some of the trouble that I get into. He was able to stay married and have kids and do a few things here and there and live a life that I couldn't live. And so I worked for I got a job. The Department of Sanitation in New York hired me. Okay? I went to high school, whatever. I remember in high school, my friend Johnny I was talking about before, he said, I got something that you're going to love. And of course I knew it wasn't anything healthy, but that's something nice. He says, try drinking gin and Gatorade. He said, that gets into your system quicker than anything you can pour down your throat. And you know what? That's the kind of suggestion that I've always taken. Anybody in this room would take that suggestion? God knows what it tasted like, and who cared what it tasted like? I never liked the taste of gin to begin with, but it doesn't mean that I wasn't going to drink it. And I started doing that, and I started doing other things. I got my hands in, I've done a lot of other things besides drinking, but I've never had the phenomenon of craving. I've never had that obsession of my mind on anything. I'm sorry, I'm lying. Maybe pizza or pasta or whatever. I shouldn't say anything, you know, carbs, whatever. But I've never had that phenomenon of craving on anything. And I just went through high school like that. I went to Staten Island Community College when I was 18 years old, and I majored in apple wine and marijuana. Those were, and gym. I can't forget gym, because as long as you could sweat out as much as you had to sweat out to try to look like you were an athlete or whatever. And I enrolled in this thing called liberal arts. To this day, I don't even know what the hell that is. You know what I mean? So I was there for a year and a half. I think I got like 11 credits in a year and a half, and they were all gym, nothing else, and whatever. And I've shown, I don't have it anymore, but I used to show this transcript to people, and they said, you were there for a year and a half, and this is all, and I said, yeah. And people would shake their head and roll their eyes, and the same response we've all gotten all of our lives from other people, right? And here's another thing. I thought I had a fancy pair of shoes on, but I was wrong when I seen Nick over there. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, I don't know if I would ever wear them or not, but I tell you, they got my eye. You know what I mean? If they're size 11, you better be careful. You know what I mean? You better not take them off and walk around without them. I don't know why I'm pricking on Nick. You know what I mean? It just came up. So life went on and on and on like that. I married my high school sweetheart, and when my daughter was 2 weeks old, I walked out on her and my daughter like she was some second or third cousin from Oklahoma that I haven't seen in 30 years. And I continued to drink and drug and do my thing, and a lot of blackouts, a lot of broken hearts, a lot of broken promises, a lot of things that I thought I would do that I never thought I would do, to get a drink or to come off a drunk or whatever. And it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And like I say, I was working for the sanitation department in New York City. It's a civil service job. The cops didn't want me, the firemen didn't want me, but the New York City sanitation hired me. You know what I mean? That was I don't know if that was a bad choice on their part or not, but because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I've been able to retire from that job over 20 years right now, and collect a small little pension from them, whatever. But there was a guy that I worked with, and we drank every single day. Every single day we drank together at a place on Staten Island called the 3 Sixes on Forest Avenue. And one day, lunchtime, we were getting back on the trucks to go out and finish our routes, and this black limousine pulled up with black tinted windows. Now this is in 1983. Okay, it's a long time ago. And he threw me the keys to his car, and he said, "Take these keys home to my wife. I'm going up to Veritas Villa to dry out." And I said, I was baffled. Dry out? What are you, whatever. He threw me the keys, closed the door, and he took off. I didn't see him for another 32 days. And he came back from Veritas Villa on a Monday morning. Came back, and he said, first of all, the sanitation colors in New York are green, right? So he had a brand new pair of pants on, a nice brand new shirt. He had a haircut, and he looked like his teeth were brushed for the first time in a long time. He just was a vision for me, and he started to whatever. He didn't start talking about AA or whatever. So and that's what I love about the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, because he was one of those guys, along with many other people to this day, that have never ranted to me about my drinking or my slow response to getting into service or anything else. And I love that's what Ebby did with Bill. Okay, Bill was waiting for Ebby to get on his back and to start ranting at him like Lois was, and all the people on Wall Street and all the people around the neighborhood in Brooklyn and whatever. And the miracle of it, he went in there, and it says right in the book, he did no ranting. And that was the magic that happened to him the same magic that happened to me. And my friend Tommy came back that day, and when we signed out that afternoon, he said to me, I can't wait to go home and to spend some time with my 2 little boys. And I knew both of his little boys. And his wife did not speak any English. So I still remember it to this day. I still remember it to this day, going back and driving his car, somebody following me back to bring me back to my place and whatever. And I had to try to explain to his wife, the 2 little boys, they're both in diapers, at the front door, and I have to try to explain to her, who doesn't speak any English, and I don't speak any Spanish, to try to tell her where her husband is going to be for the next 30-something days. It was, you know what I mean? So when he came back, and whatever, he says, I can't wait to go home and to spend some time with his 2 little boys. And I get choked up because of that, because he had another boy after that. And a couple of years ago, one of those boys, and I remember when they were this big, I watched them grow, and he died of this illness, the oldest son that my friend Tommy had. And my friend Tommy's got 40 years of sobriety. I spoke at his anniversary a couple of months ago, and it was an honor to be there for him because I know him for so many years. So my last drunk up till tonight, I don't know what's going to go on tomorrow. My last drunk up until until today, that night, the day before St. Patrick's Day, started out like it normally started out, driving that big sanitation truck through the city. Okay, I woke up underneath the FDR Drive. I hear all the cars going on top, and the 2 guys that I'm working with are gone, and I'm laying across the front seat of that sanitation truck. And after that, I don't remember what happened. And I know that I came to in the garage, married now to my second wife, a beautiful English woman, who all three of my stepdaughters told me that they love me and thanks for coming into their lives. And when they got to really know who I was, they told me to get the you know what out of our lives and leave their mother alone. But there was a morning when I came to in that garage. The car was running in the garage. I came out of a blackout. The garage door was down. I don't know if it was another suicide attempt. I don't know what it was, because I've been cut out of cars and rescued by all different people over the years, somehow surviving this illness in all different ways. And I woke up in that garage, and I came upstairs, and somehow or other I was on the phone with an organization called New York Intergroup. It was 9 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, March 16th. And as I stand up here tonight, I have not had to put anything into my body stronger than a Tylenol right up until here tonight. But if you would have told me that would have been the start of a brand new life for me, I would have said, yeah, right. Because nothing had ever worked before. I always went back to it. Okay, I never went back to it. I always went back to it. And I always tried to stay away from it, and I tried to go back, you know, whatever, and I tried everything that I could possibly do, going to the gym, working out, letting my hair grow and get a ponytail at that time, ponytails weren't in at that time, getting a cross earring so I stood out no matter where I went, whatever, tattoos, on and on and on, to try to prove to you that what you're looking at is not as sick as I feel. And I couldn't do anything about it. And when that guy said that he was going to go home to spend some time with his kids, I never forget that. I went into the bathroom of that sanitation building that day, went into the stall and put my head between my legs, and I cried for the very first time in my life. I was 31 years old, and all I could think about was, if he's going away to dry out, where are you at, Jerry? Where are you at? But he didn't talk about Alcoholics Anonymous. And a little less than a year than that, I hit my bottom in that garage, like I just mentioned to you, and things started to happen in my life. And that lady at New York Intergroup said to me, I never forget it, her name was Catherine, and I've answered phones in that office many, many times over the years. And she said to me, there's a meeting tonight at Staten Island Hospital at 7:15. It's a beginner's meeting. And I said to her in my arrogance, which I've always had, sometimes even have it today, I said to her, I'm not a beginner, I've been drinking for 19 years. And I heard her chuckle, and I could just picture it, because I've answered phones up there by people like me calling, and you hear some special case calling, and I'd be pointing over to the guys, you know, and there's no doubt in my mind that's what she was doing. And she had to explain to me, no, this is a beginner's meeting. It's for people new in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you will meet people there that will greet you and whatever. When I walked down the hallway, it seemed like it went on forever, and I just went to reach for the door of that hospital door, and the door flung open. And a friend of mine who I drank with, his name is Joey O'Keefe, and I'll use his name because he does, welcomed me at the door, and he says, "Jerry, oh my God, it's so nice to see you." And he asked me the magic question. I'm sure most people in this room have been here. He asked me, "What took you so long?" My wife was with me at the time, that beautiful English woman, Chris, was with me at the time. And we went in there, and the first speaker that I worked with was a guy that I worked with on the sanitation. And he got up there and he said that he was sober for 4 years. And I was sitting at a table, like a table back there. My wife was sitting next to me, and I said, "Did you hear what he said?" He said he was sober for 4 years. He's full of, right? I will not curse, even though I was warned not to. I don't do it anyway. Now, I might have done it a few times in the past, years ago. I've learned to try to be respectful not only to you people, to myself, and to the God that brought me here tonight from Staten Island. I try to dress up, first of all, dress to impress. I like that. That was cool. Right? That was nice. So my journey started in Alcoholics Anonymous by going to that meeting that night. And I will tell you a quick little weekend story that happened. I mean, I don't do anything quick, Jeff knows that. But the Friday night meeting, when it was over, about 6 or 8 guys surrounded me at the end of the meeting. And they asked me if I could get to the Great Kills group the following night, which was Saturday night at 9 o'clock. Great Kills at that time was the biggest meeting on Staten Island. Everybody would get dressed up like some of you are here tonight and whatever, because everybody was going out dancing in Brooklyn and Manhattan afterwards, carloads and carloads of people that were going out. So that meeting was over, 10 o'clock that night. I got surrounded by 6 or 8 other guys, a couple of the same guys, and they asked me, "Could you meet us tomorrow night at St. Albans at 8:30? And yeah, I think I can do that, you know? And I went there. And within the course of 3 days, you know what I was thinking? It's gonna sound funny. I was thinking, I'm helping these guys stay sober. Think about that. But looking back over the years that I've been here, I realized the truth of what I was thinking at that time was exactly on the money. I was helping these guys stay sober because they were working their 12-step on me to keep themselves sober. And a little at a time over the years, I've had the opportunity to do that with others. The 12-step, the most important thing that I've ever gotten involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I got a home group, I got this, I got that. Well, I shouldn't say I was privy to find a home group. I was privy to be welcomed into this meeting. And it was a Tuesday night, it was at the Daytop Center on Staten Island. And my service began that night in Alcoholics Anonymous. I was 2 years sober and probably 2 years and 2 or 3 days. And I came with my sponsor and we sat there. And there were people there with double-digit sobriety. And this woman got up there in front of the room, her name was Felicia, I'll never forget it. I was 2 years sober and 2 days, like I said. She got up in front of the room and she at the business meeting, and she said, "My name is Felicia and I'm a DCM or something from whatever." Like I said, "Oh, that's great. You went to college or whatever. You got those letters." No, it took me a long time. I'm not a quick study, believe me. And she asked once, she said, "Is anybody in this room sober longer than 2 years?" Nobody raised their hand. The sponsor's sitting next to me with 4 years. Okay? She asked that question again. Nobody raised their hand. There's guys on the other side and along the wall right here with 12 years, 22 years, whatever. I know all of them. You know what? Nobody raised their hand. The third time she said it, my sponsor elbowed me and says, "Put your hand up." I put my hand up and she says, "Congratulations, you're the next General Service Representative and you'll be going to our county meeting once a month and you'll be coming back to report what's going on the island and outside of Staten Island and what's going on in the Area 49. That's where I live, Area 49, Southeast New York. And like, that's how I got introduced to service. On my own, I never would have, if I knew that, there's no way I would have raised my hand. There's no way that I would have raised my hand. No way, right? Because I don't think that I'm watching people. I'm an inventory taker. Not so much with myself for a lot of years, but taking everybody else's inventory. Thank you. Can anybody relate to taking other people's inventory rather than your own? Oh my God, I made a living on that most of my life until I realized that it was going to get me drunk. Thank you. So that was my introduction to service. And I got involved in doing a lot of service. And I will tell you that all I did for the first 12 and a half years here in Alcoholics Anonymous was service. Whatever it was. Whatever it was. People knew me. You wanted somebody to talk on something. If he doesn't know how to talk on it, he'll make up something. He'll come over and talk. You need somebody to make coffee, call that guy with the freckles and the red hair, because I had hair and freckles at that time. When I call that guy, he'll do anything. Just call him up. He'll say yes to anything. He'll drop family. He'll drop everything. He'll do whatever you ask him to do. And I was so grateful to be part of Alcoholics Anonymous and be sober. No step work done whatsoever. Maybe 1, 2, maybe a car ride here and there, picking somebody up or bringing them home. That's what I thought service was. And maybe it is up to a certain point. And I got involved in service, and I'm going to tell you something, I don't know about anybody in this room, but I found out through doing one part of the AA triangle, the 3 legacies, I found out that I can be stuck in any one side and forget about the other 2 sides. But I didn't know what the hell was going on, and I didn't know that I was doing it. And I started to do some service. I started to become part of Staten Island General Service and New York Intergroup Service and whatever was available. I knew that my sponsor would push me to do it and whatever. So before he kept pushing me, I volunteered anyway. And I wanted to say, I got you before you got me. You know what I mean? We're full of ego. Full of ego. So these 2 guys came in from California. One guy's name was Mark, and the other guy's name was Joe. And they came into Staten Island. I was 12 and a half years sober, and I was ready to end my life stone cold sober. I had a sponsee of mine, a sponsee that I was sponsoring. His name was Gary. He lives in Connecticut. I don't even know if he's alive anymore. And I was taking him through the steps, or trying to. And he told me that he's sick of doing this, what he's doing with me, and whatever, went on and on and on. And he said, I'm going to go home tonight, and I'm going to kill my ex-wife and my 3 little boys. This is another guy. This isn't Tommy. Tommy didn't do that. This is another guy, Gary, I'm talking about. So I took the pistol off of him, and I put it up in the rafters of where I was living down in Oakwood Beach. I had a nice little bungalow down there, an eighth of a mile from the beach. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't what it sounds like. It was an old beat up bungalow and whatever. I had nice little furniture in there. The heat worked. I had a little garage, and I took that pistol off of him and I threw it up in one of the rafters in my garage. Never thought anything of it. Okay. This was probably when I was sober, about 10 and a half years, 11 years. And I will tell you, from the time I was sober, about 11 years till the time 12 and a half years, there wasn't a week that went by, no matter how many meetings I was making, no matter what I was involved in, there wasn't a week that went by when I was thinking about taking the middle of the night, walking out into that garage and pulling that pistol down and ending my life stone cold sober. No steps, no traditions, just service, running around like a chicken without a head. So busy that I never allowed anything to hurt me on the inside. We started this motorcycle club on Staten Island called the Camel Pack. You can kind of figure it out. The camel can go with big shots, right? The camel can go 24 hours a day without a drink. So, we're going to call ourselves the Camel Pack, right? So we got about 12 or 15 of us rumbling into every meeting on Staten Island, disrupting the meeting and whatever. And to this day, when I'm at a meeting and that same thing is going on, oh my God, what I want to do. Oh my God, how do I want to react to whatever. And I did the same exact thing. But these guys from California and Colorado, actually, both places, they both live. I know both of them. They both passed away. And they came into Staten Island and they did a big book workshop on the weekend of, I don't know, maybe April. And the place can only hold 80 people, and I wasn't invited. But my sponsor was there. And he had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps by listening to these guys. And the guy 2 years sober, at that time my sponsor was sober 14 years. His name was Joe Red, and I wear this jacket not so much because Ron asked me to, even though I would have done it anyway. I wear a jacket anytime I speak anywhere, if I know ahead of time where I'm going to speak, because Joe asked me to do that. That's what he used to do. He used to work at the Harley Davidson dealership on Staten Island, and he had 2 contracts out on his life that was still lingering. And he went through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous with this guy Mike, who I know from Jersey, who was sober 2 years. So Joe's carrying this, Mike's carrying it with 2 years to Joe with 14 years. And if that doesn't remind anybody in this room what Ebby was doing with Bill, 2 months sober, he's carrying the message to Bill Wilson. So that's what I was watching. He retired, he quit that job immediately after he went through the work, and I watched him right in front of me and right around me, and we were a team, we went whatever. And he quit that job, and he got a job working in it's not coming to me. It's a children's school on Staten Island. It's not coming to me. And he used to call me and he says, Jerry, I have a letter for you. And I said, okay. He would read a letter to me from some parent that would send a letter to him thanking him for taking care of his 8-year-old son and taking care of his 5-year-old daughter. And he was getting all these letters and whatever. And I watched him go for what I considered an animal, a threat to just about anybody, even though he was sober, to somebody that was working at the Montessori school. I couldn't remember it. And that's where his second career started, down at Montessori school. And I watched him grow and I watched him change. And I came to that point at 12 and a half years sober, like I said, where I had nowhere to go except check out. And I asked him the most important question that I ever asked anybody: would you take me through the steps? And I was the first person that he took through it. He used to call me a pigeon. I hated that. I hate that today. You know. And I was the first person that he took through the work after Mike took him through the work. And I will tell you, that's 27 years ago. And my life has never, ever, ever been the same. You know, you hear all kinds of stuff in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, like, you know, my life was black and white, and then I went through the work, and everything became technicolor, and everything was, the volume was turned up on everything, and the music you like to hear is playing now, and whatever. I'm not going to say any of that is true. But I had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, and I remember the biggest thing that happened to me at that time, 12 and a half years sober, was the biggest. When we took the time to read through the doctor's opinion. And I seen and felt in a way that I've never felt anything. Remember, I'm sober, or I'm without alcohol for 12 and a half years. I still did not really understood what the first step was. And when we read slowly through the doctor's opinion, boy, oh boy, something happened to me. I finally knew what was happening with me when I picked up a drink. Now I know I can't stop once I start to drink, and I know I shouldn't start to drink because I can't stop, but I don't know the meaning behind any of that. And when Dr. Silkworth broke that thing down, it's a funny thing, isn't it? That Dr. Silkworth, the doctor's opinion, to this day, comes before Bill Wilson's story. I don't know. I never cared for it. I never thought it was important. I just want to go. I want to go to ground zero. I want to go to Bill's story. I want to hear what Bill says. I want to hear whatever. And that's what I did. That's what I did. And that's what I did. And we sat down and we went through these steps one by one. I seen how powerless I was. I seen that the promise of the first step is not that I'm not going to drink or I can't drink. The promise of the first step for me by Joe and that book explaining it to me was that without a spiritual awakening, you are going to drink again, Jerry. Right? It's not that you have alcoholism. It's that alcoholism has you. And I remember Joe telling, what do you mean alcoholism? I said, Jerry, you're sober 12 and a half years. You're ready to end your life sober. You're ready to end your life sober. That little girl who you walked out on when she was 2 weeks old, she needs a father. What are you talking about? Or whatever. But he knew because he was exactly where I was for so many years. And he took me through the steps, and then he pushed me out when we got up to step 10, and he pushed me out to start carrying the message to other people. Now, I don't know about anybody in this room, but I would bet that there are people here that got pushed out after they got close to going through the steps, and how terrifying that is, and how unsure about doing any of that. And I remember saying to Joe, I said, Joe, your book's got highlighted, your book's got underlined or whatever. He says, so does yours. He says, just do what I did with you and see what happens. Give your phone number out to all these people that you're saying that you're taking their inventory, like I said before. Give your number out to all these as many people as you possibly can, and tell them that you just had a spiritual experience by going through the steps, and see what happens. So I started giving out my card, whatever, kind of like Bill Wilson, you know what I mean? Whatever. And believe me, I'm not comparing myself to Bill Wilson, but 6 months I'm giving out my card with my name on it and my phone number and whatever. And finally, this one guy takes me up on it. I'll never forget, his name was Bill. He said, you know, I've watched you change in a way that I haven't seen anybody else change in the meetings that I'm going to. And he says, would you take me through that process like you've been brought through, and like you talked about your sponsor going through, and his sponsor going through? And I said, yes. I took him all the way through these steps. We got together every single Monday night at 8 o'clock. We went all the way to the end of this 12th step, and I never seen the guy again to this day. And I remember saying to Joe, is this what happens? Is this what happens? I'm giving up every single Monday night to this guy, right, at 8 o'clock. If he comes at 2 minutes after 8, I'm having a heart attack because I told him 8 o'clock. And Joe says, oh, I'm sorry, that's what I was doing with you. That's exactly what I was doing with you. Remember when you came and found you after 8 instead of 8 o'clock? And I said, yeah. He said, you closed the door in my face. And he said, yeah, that wasn't to hurt you, Jerry. That was to help you to see how important this was. And that's what Mike told him, and that's what Mike, and I know it sounds rigid, and I know it sounds really structured or whatever, but I needed that. I was ready to die in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, stone cold sober. So we went through all of the steps, and like I said before, and he pushed me out to start working with people. And in the meantime, after that, I got back involved in service. Got involved in doing some prison work on Staten Island. There was a prison on Staten Island for many, many years. And just doing a lot of service in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I noticed that if I get involved in any one side of that triangle, that without the help of somebody else, that I'm going to be consumed with what I'm doing, and I won't be able to go any further to either one of the other sides of the triangle: unity, recovery, and service. And I didn't know that was happening. See, I think I'm doing the right thing by just doing service. But I had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, but I was terrified to carry that to anybody else. And I took that guy hostage up to a point, and he went through the work and whatever. And I started to see the importance of working all three sides, all three legacies of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that I do it 33 and a third, 33 and a third, and 33 and a third. But I try to find a balance with all three sides of that triangle, and my life has never been the same. Then because of being part of Staten Island General Service, I started hearing things like, you're the GSR, you're the guardian of the traditions, right? So I think it's hard enough to try to figure out what these things are, try to follow through what these things are. And now they're talking about the traditions, and then they're talking about the concepts, and they're talking about these things that who cares about those things, whatever. I gotta get somebody to write his fourth step. No, and it just goes on and on and on like that. And I started to get a little bit interested in the traditions. Whether I liked it or not, I started to get interested in what the traditions are for us and how important they are for us. And then I got a little bit deeper in service on Staten Island below the group level. Doesn't matter how far, but I started to be interested in what the concepts mean. The right of participation, right? The right of appeal, right? The minority opinion about how AA works worldwide, And I'm starting to understand that there's 12 principles to every part of those legacies that I'm talking about. And it starts to come to me. And I start to understand. And a little at a time, I sponsored a lot of people over the years. And I didn't bring my big book with me tonight, but whenever I go anywhere in Staten Island, people always tell me, tell your book story, tell your book story. It's okay. So, I'm tired of telling it, to tell you the truth. But I have another big book, I have a big book home that's falling apart, which is a good thing. I used to think as soon as it starts falling apart, I'm going to get another one. Then I realized Hurricane Sandy came rumbling through the East Coast. Okay? October 29th, 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And I live in that little bungalow down the beach. And I left the night before with one suitcase full of clothes, my dog Felony, that was her name, Felony. It's a nice name, right? And my Honda Pilot. And I had a good friend of mine in Alcoholics Anonymous. She asked me if I wanted to stay in her basement until you can get back on your feet. First of all, we didn't have any idea what the storm was going to be like. Okay, and I know people down there that lived on my block who I knew, people that lived on the next block that never made it out of their houses. Okay? Tragic, tragic, tragic time. So the next 2 days later, you couldn't get near the place, with all the cops and everything. The water was still this high all around. The water probably was this high? This high? Now my bungalow is 5 feet on cinder blocks. Then the main part of the house is 5 feet high on cinder blocks. The water was that high inside the bungalow. So like I said, all I could think about when I was over at my friend Janet's house is I gotta get back to that house and I gotta get my big book. I gotta get my big book, I gotta get it. No, that's the only thing I care about. Now, over the years I have been an archivist. I have been very interested in Alcoholics Anonymous history. I've had a lot of things that were very valuable as far as if you're interested in that kind of thing. Not everybody is. But I'm sick that way. I'm sick in a lot of different ways. I want to know more about it. I want to know more about Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to know where I come from. I want to know the story, even way past. I want to go back to Roland, and I want to go and whatever. And over the years, I've gone to some of those places, and I visited some of those places, and I seen where Bill put the nickel in that phone at the Mayflower Hotel. And I picked up the phone and put a nickel in and says, "Hey, can I help you?" And I've had the opportunity to do a lot of traveling in Alcoholics Anonymous, but getting back to what I was going before, I couldn't find my big book. My son-in-law gave me a pair of waders that you use for fishing. You people probably know about it around here, I guess. I don't know anything about it, but I guess, I could be wrong. I would think there's a fisherman or two maybe around here, I don't know. But he gave me these waders to put on, and the water was almost, as I was walking down the street, the water was almost coming into the waders. So I got down there and whatever, and it took me a while to remember the door. Everything was waterlogged. Everything was, and I opened up finally was able to get into the bungalow. And the living room furniture was in the back, in the bedroom. The bed and the bedroom furniture was in the living room. I can't even tell you what I seen when I walked in there, and the whole neighborhood was like that. And I couldn't find my big book. Couldn't find my big book. That whole day I looked all over. I had a little computer room which I had all my archival stuff and my coins and my whatever, all kinds of stuff that people have given me over the years, and I couldn't find my big book. I went down there the second day, I still couldn't find my big book. The third day I went down there, my big book was right there in the kitchen. It was probably on a shelf about this high. Remember, the water is that high inside the house. The water line goes around the wall, all the way around the whole house, the whole bungalow. I seen the cover of it. It's a tan cover who I got from a friend of mine in Colorado that makes them. And I grabbed the book and I opened up the book. And if I had that book with me tonight, I would show you that that book was as dry that day as it is right now in my house where I'm living now. It never got wet, and it was wet, and I can't describe that to you. So it was another moment of clarity, and somehow or other that God still wants me to carry the message to others. I'm not a speaker. I'm not an AA speaker. I get asked every once in a while to do something, and because I'm sober a long time, they think I might have something to say. But I'm really not an AA speaker. I'm not. You know what I mean? But it's funny how when you don't think you're something, AA shows you that you can be something else, and you can change and things can happen. So that was one interesting story for me. And then when I first brought it, and people couldn't believe that. You're telling me, Jerry, that the water was I said, people came into my house, because we were going to try to renovate the house. That didn't work out because bulldozers came and tore the whole neighborhood apart, and everybody lost everything that they had. But before that happened, okay, I was out in my garage. Remember, my friend Gary with the pistol that I'm going to use to end my life at 12 and a half years sober. Okay? Okay? That pistol's up in the garage, up in the rafters of the garage somewhere. I had a motorcycle in the garage that was upside down, a beautiful red gold wing that was upside down in the garage. Everything in the garage was destroyed. And I was out there, and there was a blue garbage can. And I turned it upside down for whatever reason. And I was just looking around in that garage. I was just looking around at the air conditioners are gone, the motors, whatever, the lawn mowers, everything that's in there is gone. And all of a sudden, the pistol that I'm talking about falls directly on top of the garbage can. I used to think, is it odd or is it God? I don't use the word odd anymore. Everything, one day at a time. If I'm aware of it and I'm awake to it, everything is God. Every single thing is God, one way or another. So I moved out of that house. They tore my house down. The state itself, where I was living, called Oakwood Beach, that was the first area that the government decided to start paying people for their homes. Okay? And I got whatever I got from them, I was able to put down on another house. And I'm still working with people. I got this dog, Felony, and if my friend Greg was here, he would say that that's Jerry's 5th step service dog. That dog has heard as many 5th steps as I have. The number doesn't matter. It's a few. I'll leave it at that. And the dog used to come over and sit and whatever. When the guy was reading the 5th step, and there was magic that was happening in that bungalow before it got destroyed. And there was magic that's been happening in my life ever since, all over the place on Staten Island and other places that I go to. That little girl that I walked out on when she was 2 weeks old, her name was Megan. I was talking to Ron before about his children and his 3 boys. And, I love to ask people, do you have any children, whatever. And, I'm not, I don't know if Ron had gray hair, if he let it grow or not, I don't really know. But I just kind of assumed that and he said, I got 3 boys, and then he meant, that wonderful little girl that I walked out on when she was 2 weeks old to marry another woman and end up in that garage with the door closed and the soot coming to my face and calling into group that next morning, I'm sorry, at 9 o'clock, and breaking that girl's chops, telling her I'm not a beginner, I'm drinking for 19 years, whatever it is, right? Because of Alcoholics Anonymous, that girl has given me the opportunity to be part of 5 beautiful grandchildren. Now, when I was sober 5 years, or sober 10 years, or even 25 years, when people were talking about their grandchildren, I'd be like, But I've lived long enough to watch this thing happen. And me and my daughter never got along until she started having children. And I have a grandson 14, a grandson 12. And sometimes I talk about this and I notice people saying, oh, here he goes with his grandchildren again. Here he goes with the Irish family, the tour, whatever. I just can't help myself. Because they are the apple of my eye. And I spend as much time with them, if not more, than I do with other alcoholics. And sometimes that annoys the hell out of me. But my daughter knows that she can call me any single time to do whatever she needs me. And I drop just about anything, unless I'm working with another alcoholic or I have another commitment somewhere. And my oldest grandson is named Griffin. The one 2 years below him is called Declan. The little girl that finally Ron was talking about, they had the two boys and they were going for the whatever. They never got the girl, but my daughter had the girl, and we all assumed, oh my gosh, she's finished, thank God. You know, then she had two more after that. The 9-year-old girl's name is Maeve. The little boy, 5-year-old, he's, you know, there's a couple of seats in here waiting for him, I know that. There's no doubt in my mind. He's going to fill seats somewhere, if he's lucky. And then a little baby who's 3 years old. So it's Griffin, Declan, Maeve, Keenan, and Mairead. And my life, because of you, because of anything that I couldn't do for myself, you have helped and guided me to do. I can call myself Grandpa. There was a time in my life when I walked out, and I knew I was walking out on her when she was 2 weeks old. She's 46 years old or 47, I don't know. I could barely keep up with the grandkids, never mind her age. But, you know, but my life has changed, and I know I do it one day at a time. I know that alcohol, as I stand up here tonight, I will tell you something. I know for a fact that Alcoholics Anonymous will work at least 39 years, 2 months, and 4 days. I know that for a fact because it's been working in my life that long. And I hope it continues one day at a time, as long as I continue to be part of this fellowship and not get too complacent about things and what's going on in the world and politics and borders and all this other stuff that gets my attention. And I want to get into that. It's an issue I know I can't afford to get into as deeply as I do sometimes. But my name is Jerry, and I'm an alcoholic, and my home group is Conscious Contact. And I was telling people in Staten Island that know that my home group is Wednesday night and Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. And I was telling them I'm going to Conscious Contact tonight. Right? Conscious Contact's Wednesday and Sunday. No. I'm going to Conscious Contact tonight. And half of them don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. But I was telling them the truth. I was coming to Conscious Contact. Right? So I've had a Conscious Contact for many, many years. I hope it continues one day at a time. Like my friend Norman used to say, I don't pull the cart as fast as I used to, and I can't pull it as far as I used to. But one day at a time, I hope that I'm still pulling it. Thank you for allowing me to share.
My name is Nick. I'm an alcoholic. Let's thank Jerry one more time for an incredible message. Student fellowship always starts at 8 o'clock. If you want to come early and be of service, we always some help setting up and everything like that. It's customary for us to form a line and thank our speaker. They come here at their own time and expense. And we could use some help cleaning up. All the chairs can go except for the chairs at the tables. And once again, let's thank everybody who helped out in the kitchen tonight. And you care to join us, we will close with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.